Hello, hello. Oh my gosh, it's been a long time. Gosh, I feel like a lot has happened in the last month, I think, since the last time I went live. Wow. Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. If you're here, say hi. Let me know how you're doing. And okay, we got a couple people here. Welcome, welcome. And so the first thing I wanted to just remind everybody is that uh well, maybe it's not a reminder, I don't know, but just letting everyone know that today is, let me put up my volume. Today is Domestic Violence Awareness Day. And it's part of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which is October. There's a lot of other things in October. October is also known as Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but DV awareness is something I am really passionate about. I actually started this channel, actually learned about true crime from the Gabby Petito case. And I started really being interested in that because of that case and because I had had a similar relationship to hers. Fortunately, I got out of it, and fortunately, I wasn't harmed like she was, sadly. But I think that really touched and spoke to a lot of people, a lot of women, her story. I don't know what it was about her story, but it really touched a lot of people. And so I learned, I didn't even know the term true crime until that came out. And so it's like not the thing I want to learn about, but it really has affected so many people. So I think that was really, really interesting. And then kind of like the nail that hit the nail that hit the no, the nail that hit the cough, that closed the coffin, whatever. Some dumb phrase of what really got me to start the channel a year ago is that I was following the Kylie Rodney case. So the Kylie Rodney case got me back into true crime. I had gone out of covering true crime because it was so negative and I just felt so brought down. And yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And it's exactly why I decided to call my channel originally Empowering True Crime, because I wanted to be a more of an empowering space, empowering the true crime community and empowering people, empowering survivors. And so just a few months ago, I decided to change it to Empowering Survivors instead of Empowering True Crime. And I resonate so much more with the name, but that's what's cool about, starting a channel, putting yourself out there and really testing what works, especially if it's a new thing that you're creating, a new brand that you're creating. You can test out what content works, what doesn't work, what you resonate with, what you don't resonate with. And so it's been a really amazing year of learning lessons. So actually, interestingly, I started the channel and I didn't do anything with it for a few weeks. So I didn't actually start really doing much until November. And then because I was following the Kylie Rodney case, the SA case or charge against Jared Lysick from Adventures with Purpose, who was the company that found, they were the search team that found Kylie Rodney. I started covering that. So I dove right in. I got super interested in that and just dove in and started covering that case. And then, like a week later, the very unfortunate Idaho 4 case happened where the 4 University of Idaho students died, were killed. I mean, just so tragic. And I felt really resonated with that because I went to University of Florida and there was one of the most notorious serial killers was in Florida, in that university too. And so it felt there was a lot of parallels with that. And of course, Bundy was also in Florida. So he was at another university. He killed, unfortunately, sorority girls in Florida State University. So just some awful, parallels. So I felt really called to do that channel. And I mean, to cover that story. And so over the last, year, there have been some some stories that have really stood out. So those two were obviously, they had already happened before I started my channel, but I still continued to cover them because I was interested in them. And then two other big stories that hit the news that I've covered over the last, I would say, like 90 days are, well, actually, I guess this is a little over 90 days, because the Titan submersible explosion or implosion happened in June. That was around Father's Day. So that happened in June. And then the Maui wildfires in August. So those were two big stories that I covered. And so the point of empowering survivors is I want to be a space not to wallow in victimhood, but to really celebrate survivors. Even if, let's say, in the case of the Maui wildfires, there were a lot of survivors from that. And now they're sharing their stories. I want to be a space where we can share those stories. And also, of course, survivors of domestic violence, survivors of SA, other survivors of crime, their family, right? So I cover sometimes what's happening with the family of, for example, the Idaho 4, what the Gonzalez family is going through, what the Chapins are going through. So that I want to be a space where we can really celebrate the survivors and their stories. And so one interesting other tidbit is that this week, the Natalee Holloway case was brought to Alabama, and the Joran van der Sloot was the person that we all suspected was involved in Natalee's murder or killing, and he confessed to it. And Natalee's mother feels complete. Like, she feels like justice has been served, as far as he's already serving time for killing another woman, unfortunately, young woman in Peru. And he's going to get 20 years for fraud and extortion charges for trying to extort Natalee's mom for money in exchange for information about the whereabouts of Natalee and what happened to her. The reason that he's under extortion and fraud charges is because he lied. He gave wrong information. And then he took the money and ran to Peru. One of the worst parts of the entire story is that not only did he take the money and ran, gave wrong information, but then killed another, that sadly, the young woman in Peru on the same day, 5-year anniversary of the killing of Natalee. I mean, just talk about some sick stuff going through that guy's mind to be able to do all of that, right? Some sick. So just so awful, so sad. But I found out in the process of covering the case of what happened this week that he pled guilty and he confessed to that urine, that it's Natalee's birthday tomorrow. Her birthday would have been October 21st, or is October 21st, and tomorrow she would have been 37. So the reason why I thought it was really important to cover Natalee's case also is because Natalee, that case touched a lot of young women as well. In 2005, it really shaped how a lot of young women travel. I would say probably around the early 2000s, women started to have a lot more independence and traveling. I was definitely one of them. And, feeling really confident going out and traveling on our own, being solo travelers. And she wasn't a solo traveler. It was like a high school, vacation type of thing. But still feeling comfortable traveling internationally. And so that really created a space for a lot of young women to rethink how they traveled and rethink, going off with people you don't know, with strangers and things like that. And it's not just me. I've heard other stories of other women as well. Friends of mine, we've talked about it. And if it were not for the fact that I had a work engagement, like I was creating an event, I was a publicist for a big company at an event in Aruba, and I think it was like 2013 or 2014. I can't remember the exact year. If it were not for that event, I would probably never ever travel to Aruba. It left a really a fearful mark on my heart for many years. I could not even consider going to Aruba until I was kind of forced to as a work event. I mean, I wasn't forced to, but I went because enough time had passed. But if that had happened, like if that work event had been in like 2006 or 2007 or 2008, I probably wouldn't have gone. So it's interesting. And Natalee's mom she made a point. She said something like, now to Urine, she said that now he's going to be like, he's like the X, he's like the mark on Aruba. I mean, it's a it's a small island. They get tourist dollars. They need the tourist dollars. They probably lost, I don't even know how many millions, maybe potentially billions of dollars in the last 18 years because of that. Oh, I don't want to say it, POS, and what he did to poor Natalee. And though Aruba, the government, or whoever was in charge of the case, and I don't know enough about it, but they also messed up, because part of the reason why I was at least fearful is that I didn't feel like, that country was safe, that island was safe, because if they would have made some arrests or had consequences to the actions, take some accountability, then perhaps I would have felt like they were actually taking it seriously and not trying to give this guy a slide. And look what ended up happening. Not only did he kill poor Natalee, but then 5 years later killed another woman and extorted Natalee's mother for money. So, this is why, oh man, it's making me mad thinking about it. This is part of the reason why we advocate. This is why we advocate for justice, because the system tends to favor certain people, and we want to make sure that there is justice for the families of the victims, for the victims themselves, if they're still survive, if they're alive and they've survived, because a lot of times they get left behind and they get further re-victimized. Or the perpetrators who don't get accountability, they re-victimize and they continue to commit, right? Or escalate. And so, like in the case of this guy, Urine, he killed one person, didn't get held accountable, and then killed another person. I mean, I almost feel like, in a certain way, that the Aruban government or whoever was in charge of the investigation carries some burden of that, responsibility for him being in society, being out and being allowed to, or not being allowed, but continuing to commit crimes. So I feel good. I feel complete. I think, I talked about what I wanted to talk about today, which was the Domestic Violence Awareness Day, Natalee Holloway's birthday, and of course the anniversary of my channel. I can't wait to see what happens over the next year. Thank you so much, everyone who was here today, who shared your thoughts. I really appreciate it. And I think we'll end with that, but have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. If you are new to my channel, I'd love for you to subscribe, hit the thumbs up. And yeah, the many more for me. I will continue to do more lives. I took a little break while I was promoting my other channel, but now I'm going to be going back to doing some lives here with the amazing Empowering Survivors community. So with that, everyone, I really appreciate you all. Thank you so much for being here or watching the recording. And oh, you know what would be really cool if you're here? Let me know what was the story or the news that I covered that got you to start watching my channel, if you remember. All right, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.